I just finished dyeing my hair from that Godot video, and I'm sorry, it's a little flatter, and no buzz. A Just Bees book club. My Life as a Godard Movie by Joanna Walsh. This is going to be the second in the Transit Books Undelivered Lectures series book that I talk about. It's actually the fifth one. It just came out. I'm recording this on the 24th. Is that right? Yes, the 24th of October. It came out, I believe, on like the 11th or the 15th of this month. This is not a representative copy. This is an advanced reader copy. So it's glossy and not at all like the actual very attractive covers that will stick around. I got two more videos about undelivered lectures to do. So I really genuinely love the series that this is a part of, and I'm going to say that basically in the next two videos also. Uh, Undelivered Lectures is a series that started from Transit Books, who's a Bay Area nonprofit publisher who usually mostly does work in translation. But it's in 2020 they started a series called Undelivered Lectures, where they publish I believe their specific language is slim, handsome volumes of essays or lectures, sort of essayistic lectures or lecturish essays is probably more accurate since they are printed. Um, that sort of take whatever focus their authors seem particularly interested in, and this one. Um, and I will say, I have not read an undelivered lecture from somebody who I knew prior to reading them. The one that appeared on this channel before, my like sixth video or something was Prita Taneja's Aftermath, a book I struggled with very significantly, had extremely mixed feelings about in terms of politics and affect, but like that in the intervening months, I have come to deeply respect, and also I think respect is a good word. Um, in the in those intervening months, I have developed something of a vague relationship with the Transit Books people. They are very kind to me and send me things when I request them. Not for this channel, for the actual job I have. Because again, this channel is only watched by bees. This is just for bees. A Just Bees book club, as I say when I start these. Um, My Life was a Godard movie. Talk about this one specifically. Um, I remember two things about this book. And I'm gonna say neither of those initially. I fucking adore Godard, especially early Godard, which is sort of the sole focus of this book. I have not. I think film socialism is like the most recent thing of Godard's that I saw, and he also passed away not that long ago, like a month ago or maybe a little bit more. Um, I think he did a lot of cool shit. But like my love affair with him started with Breathless. Uh, just a beautiful, weird film. I love Le Mépris, Contempt with Brigitte Bardot more than I think Is It All Reasonable. Uh, yeah, La Chinoise, very strange and interesting. And so this book is sort of a diaristic rewatch or first watch of Godard's early films. So the narrative stuff basically before he pivots to sort of the stuff that I probably would find even more interesting at this point, but that I haven't watched, which is him. Notre Musique, I also saw it at a certain point, way before I was ready for it. But like before he um, starts fundamentally dealing with film as a form, and when he's in his early work, sort of working as a film critic making movies. um, I love that shit. And so this book is about revisiting those movies or visiting them for the first time and talking through, and Joanna Walsh talking through her sort of experience of them over the pandemic, I guess, is like probably a fair thing to say. I don't know if it's quite the way I've even framed it in my own head up to this point. Um, so the first thing I remember about this movie, or this book, is uh, Joanna Walsh talks a lot about color, which comes out at the very beginning, and I found it very interesting because his first at least in my mind, at least Breathless and Alphaville are strikingly black and white. And I'm not a completionist on Godard at all, so I'm gonna miss things. But like, I think it's literally the intro. Yeah. Uh, a man once looked at me and said I looked like I was filmed in Eastman color. That was the color film stock Jean-Luc Godard used, and Godard didn't like green either. Yeah, this is literally the beginning of this book. Um, it's Joanna Walsh talking about how much she does not like green and just prefers primary colors. Because green is a composite color, um, in the color theory that I don't understand. I wish I understood it, and I have never taken the time to bother. So, uh, say what you will about that. Um, but there's a really interesting intro here where Walsh talks about how uh, about green and her aversion towards it, and a sort of shared aversion toward it that Godard has. And she kind of gives like a large overview of like his lack of use of green, and then the instances where it does show up, which I think are primarily outdoor shots, which is not what I think of when I think of Godard. I don't think of a lot of exteriors, maybe with the exception of Weekend, um, which is a book. Or wow, I've called this book a movie, and I've called the movies a book already so far. Interesting. Um, uh, I guess Contempt has a lot of exterior shots, but there are a lot of sea and buildings, not a lot of like lawns or grasses or planes or anything like that. Weekend being a driving movie, I think definitely has some green in it, but but Weekend does not show up in this book. I don't think a single time. Um, yeah, not that I can remember. Having read two other undelivered lectures since, and the way it's structured is like after the discussion of green and is like the name of a movie and then a color it's associated with. Uh, you can see that there. So masculine, feminine is black. Uh, it's another black and white one. I've never seen it. Uh, there's an interlude, sort of not an interlude. It's just another chapter, but like Dolly Story is Tarmac. Um, Filmed in 1966, Dolly Story is a London documentary not made by Jean-Luc Godard. Uh, so it's yeah, it's a bit of a film diary. It's a bit of extended meditation on color and how it's used, and largely, um, My Life as a Godard movie is about. I think it's about both of those things more than anything else. Um, but it's also a sort of reckoning with. Um, I think I think this is fair to say Walsh's own relationship to her femininity or womanhood. Wow, I'm stumbling over my words. Walsh's own relationship to her femininity or womanhood, and with the framing of looking at Godard's stuff, and thinking about Godard's relationship to portraying femininity or womanhood on screen. I'm not saying those two things are the same thing. I'm saying both of them each of these times to distinguish them. I think that's hopefully clear. And if it wasn't, then I hope it is now. Um, and I don't know, it felt, this whole book felt a little complicated for me as somebody who has not revisited Godard in a long time and who does not have the other aspect of this, which is like Walsh talks a lot about sort of like an envisioned Paris or a desirable Paris, a desire to go to Paris that is initially sort of propelled by Godard, that uh, feels unattainable because, you know, as part of the series, like the Undelivered Lecture series starts in 2020. This is probably pitched very early on. It's only the fifth book in the series. So like I imagine it was pitched late 2020 at the earliest, or sorry, at the latest. Uh, so there's specific pandemic lockdown feelings that sort of like simmer underneath it mostly, and come up every once in a while as a simmer does. A low simmer, maybe is a metaphor that I like. And this is just for bees, so that's all it needs to happen. That's all it needs to happen. Um, and yeah, I think I quite liked this book. I've liked everything in the Undelivered Lecture series. The one I am not going to talk about is Namali Serpel's Stranger Faces, because I read that before I started this channel, and the whole thing I do here is just read or talk in one take at this camera. You, who is nobody because it's just for bees. Um, and so I don't revisit older things. I guess unless I reread Faces, which I guess is a possibility because now Molly Serpel was so good. Uh, Old Drift, Brilliant, Furrows, which just came out, also like the best book of this year, um, for my money at least. And and I guess I'm like not making a point here, but the thing I want to say is the more I think about My Life as a Godard movie, the more I enjoy it. Um, Not even like in terms of like specific points, but just like the general feeling I got out of it, the and those specific points of like a deep attention to color, even in a filmmaker who might easily be called primarily a black and white filmmaker. That's like not true, but like the things that are deeply influential about his movies, I think are mostly in his black and whites. Um, and to go back to the thing I quoted, the reference to being to somebody saying you look like you were filmed in Eastman color. I didn't know that Godard did not use Technicolor, and that Technicolor was a an earlier thing. I think there's a specific or there's a specific filmmaking um, historical discussion about the difference between Eastman color and Technicolor that I can't recall off the top of my head, but it has to do with sort of like positive versus negative um, colorization. That's a really wrong way to phrase this, but it's, you know, um, uh, there's a quote in there from Godard where he apparently at some point was like, I think, hired to film some stuff in Mozambique by like the government there, and did an early call out of oh god, yeah, there's a whole section on China girls, I think is what they're called, that is about like sort of balancing film based on extremely pictures of extremely white women, that he, I think, called out in like the early 70s, maybe late 70s, when he got hired to make a film sort of highlighting people from Mozambique and just being like, yo, the way we balance film, and the way that film is developed to be balanced, and the way that film is produced, uh, fundamentally devalues black faces. Basically, I think I did not know about him, but that I believe, I guess, because I don't, I guess I'm taking this book on faith in many ways. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, cool stuff. Made me want to watch Godard movies again. Made me curious about Joanna Walsh's other stuff, and just made me happy to be aware of and actively engage with the Undelivered Lecture series because I don't know. I think Transit Books is doing cool shit. They've always been very kind to me. Uh, to bring up that caveat again, but I also don't know them, so who knows? Who knows what the deal is there? Anyway, that was My Life as a Godard Movie by Joanna Walsh. This is No Buzz. Thanks for not watching.